Welcome to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. We are your hosts, Mr. Eric Muller. He's already smiling. He's excited. Jasper
That's
Rivers,
right.
I'm excited too because this is the first podcast that I record with my brand new audio equipment.
That's right. You look like a professional and sound like one.
Almost, if I shave my hair, I look like Joe Rogan.
That's right. You're pretty much Joe Rogan.
That's right.
That's what people say about you.
Almost there. You know, we're getting there. We're at 30,000 downloads a month. I think Joe Rogan has like a couple million a month, but you know, maybe more.
Yeah, I think it's more than a couple million. I think on one of his last podcasts, I read that it was downloaded over 70 million times one episode.
Wow.
So
That's
we got some
insane.
work to do to catch up.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, what's your favorite podcast that you listen to other than Get Paid for Your Pad?
Honestly, man, Joe Rogan has literally just been my go-to for so long, especially recently because I've really enjoyed just the long form, authentic conversations that dive deep. And that's kind of like where you and I get obviously the inspiration for our episode together. But yeah, Joe Rogan, also real estate wise, I've been doing a lot of research on tiny homes because you know that's our new business that we've been diving into. But really, I'm pulling this up for everybody who is listening here. Real estate wise, I fell in love with this recent podcast. Hold on, where is it? I'll have to find it, send it to you guys. We'll post it up in the show notes. But yeah, I listen mostly to Rogan, Jocko Willick's podcast called the Jocko Podcast. And then the Real Estate Wealth Show is something I've been getting into a lot.
Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. I one of my favorites now is by Paul Saladino. It's a health podcast. It's called Fundamental Health.
Yeah, that's solid. That's a solid one.
Yeah, it's good to listen to podcasts. It's very relaxing. You can do it during the gym, and you know sometimes I put it on before I go to sleep. It's one of my favorite ways to consume content.
It's pretty much the only way I consume content right now. I'm officially off of social media, and I have been for the last few months. And it's been so freaking eye-opening because I recognize like how much time I used to waste just going on social media and getting lost in all these conversations and content that I really just don't care about at the end of the day. And I find myself like in between just like looking and searching for conversation and knowledge and all of that. So I always default to podcasts. I was pulling up my I just recently switched from Apple Podcasts to Spotify because of Rogan is on there. So now I'm listening to everybody on there. So yeah, I've been absorbing that and audiobooks like crazy. So I have my list here. My top podcast outside of Rogan and Jocko is Get Rich Education. That's what I was thinking about. Get Rich Education. Really, really good if you're into just real estate and trying to understand how to scale that. And that's about it, man. I keep it simple. And Tony Robbins podcast.
Tony Robbins. Yeah. Tony Robbins is always high on my list as well. Awesome, man. Well, let's dive into it. We are talking about the 5 stages of hosting today. So I just realized we've never actually done a full podcast about the 5 stages of hosting. We've talked about it a lot. You did a pretty cool video on our Overnight Success YouTube channel. So if you wanna learn more, you can check out that video too. But it's really relevant to talk about it now because next week on Thursday we have our next training event, right? And I think it's really good for everybody to understand, you know, the 5 stages of hosting before going into that into that training. So, and by the way, if you haven't signed up for the training yet, you got to sign up now at strlegends.com/register. We've been working on this for quite a long time, and we got some really cool stuff for you. So make sure to grab your seat. But yeah, let's dive into 5 stages of hosting, because I got to give you credit, because I think you were the one that came up with this.
Yeah, what I was recognizing is, our industry has grown so much and so fast over such a short period of time that as you're trying to grow a short-term rental business, I think people really run into the problem of understanding what to do in their business and what they need to have in their business and when. So I wanted to create a process to understand and measure the progress of growth in a short-term rental company, right? Because like I truly feel, and I see this by talking to so many people that are applying for Legends X, is that regardless of where they are in the world, they're running into these challenges where they know that they want to grow a short-term rental business, but really the only type of education that's out there that they're connecting with is either how to get started in short-term rentals, or watching YouTube videos and things like that of people that are running 100 units, and they're like, oh, I just need 100 units. And there's a lot of misinformation, or there's a lot of confusion on what you actually need in your business to move your business forward, right? Like people just think, oh, I just need 100 units because that's what success means. So I wanted to set out a process to really just understand where you're at. Before we can understand where you want to go with your business, we have to identify where you're at now in your business and understand the challenges and bottlenecks that you're facing. But then also I wanted a way for people to understand that what they're facing in their business is not unique to them, right? That we're not, because we're running into these problems, it's not because we're a bad entrepreneur or business owner, or it's just, we have bad luck. It's like, depending on what stage you're at in the hosting business, I guarantee you're experiencing the same challenges that everybody else in your stage is experiencing. So yeah, that's why we wanted to set out and kind of create this. And it took us, about a year to really dial it in exactly the stages and what they mean, and challenges that you're experiencing, the solutions that you need. But I tell you what, it's been freaking amazing since we've done this. So many people have identified with a certain stage, and it kind of gives them relief, which is really cool. Of like, oh, okay, I'm at this stage. I'm at the 3rd stage. I want to get to the 5th stage. That means I just need to implement these couple of things and my business can start moving up. And then it's something that finally in this industry that we could be excited about, of like, outside of just measuring, unit count, it's like we could actually measure success in our business, which is amazing. So that was kind of like the concept of the 5 stages of hosting. What have you noticed by us, kind of implementing this and developing out the 5 stages of hosting?
Well, first of all, what I think is really cool, that there's a lot of people now that are really identifying with these 5 stages, right? Especially the hectic host. We get emails every single day from hosts, right? And I saw an email today from somebody who actually signed off with hectic host and then their name, which is really amazing. Yeah. No, I think the hectic host is the first thing that I started noticing too. Is like, we had a lot of students that were stuck in the same position, right? And we didn't have these labels in these stages yet, but I think that was the first thing that kind of became clear, is that everybody at some point as they're scaling are running into the hectic host problems. Right. And that's just like, it's almost guaranteed that people will run into it, because like we see people getting excited about Airbnb. We see them, getting started, and it's so fun in the beginning. It's, you're passionate about it. It's fun to meet people. It's fun to provide these cool experiences. And when you have a couple units, like that's manageable, right? And people take a lot of pride in the hospitality experience that they're creating. They typically kind of want everything to go perfect, and so they're very hands-on. And then they add a couple more units, and suddenly like it just becomes too much. It becomes too much to handle. And I remember in the when we started doing SDR Profit Academy, I remember there was a number of people in our group that were exactly like that. And they were, you know, we were talking to them every single week, and we were trying to figure out, like, how do we help these people? Right. That's really how we came up with Legends X, is trying to find a solution for the hectic host position.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think what you said, and what I noticed is, you know, a lot of the students that I talked to that have gone through Legends X, they say that one of the biggest things that they gained through the program is the confidence.
Right.
They understand, like you said, they understand now. It's not that their business is perfect after coming out of Legends X, but they now have the confidence. They understand what they need to do. They have systems in place now. They have a roadmap to hire people, to start delegating. And that's a big relief, right? Because if you feel lost, it's almost like you get dropped off on a remote island in the middle of nowhere, and you just look around and you're like, I have no idea where I am. I need to find food. I need to find water, but where do I go? And then somebody drops you a map and says, like, hey, you know, this is the way to the water, and then this is where you can find food. You're still thirsty, you're still hungry, but now you're like, okay, fine, I'm here, and this is where I need to go. And then, you know, we'll make improvements. Well, it will get better.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what I see, is that the 5 stages of hosting has done for people, is it gives them clarity and awareness and a plan.
Yeah. 100%.
That feels good.
Yeah, it does feel good, man. And we're starting to see that quite a bit, is like when I'm speaking to people that are applying for Legends X, they really are identifying with these stages. And, you know, again, it kind of gives them the confidence of understanding where they're at, and then excitement for where they want to go. So, but let's get into it. So, you know, it makes sense for everyone, you know, what these stages are. And then I'm really curious for the listeners. It's like, reach out to us. Let us know what stage you identify with the most. And also, I want to, before we get into this, you know, certain people, when I speak to them, they think being at one of these stages is bad or wrong. Like they need to be at stage 4 or 5, right? It's like, we didn't create these as like a competition. The 5 stages of hosting is just to identify where on the journey you're at. There's not one that's better than the other. And actually, you know, there's certain stages here where it, in my opinion, are the most exciting, because based on your goals, you know, just by implementing a couple of things in your business, you could dramatically see a impact on your business, right? So it's like, you know, I just want to set that stage. It's like, regardless of where you are in the 5 stages of hosting, it's amazing and it's great. And now once you identify that, then the next step, and this is what we specialize with Legends X, right? Is like getting clear on the vision, right? So if you understand where you're at and you understand where the vision of your company and what you want to achieve, then you just know the roadmap to get there. And it's not easy, but it's a simple approach, right? But yeah, 5 stages of hosting. So obviously there's 5 stages here. The stages are the traditional stage. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is the side hustle host. I'm sorry, let me start this over. Stage 1 is the traditional host. Okay.
That's right.
And let's break them down one by one instead of going through all 5. So there's 5 stages. The first stage is the traditional host. What we recognize is that this is mostly where hosts get started on Airbnb, right? So if we rewind time and we go back to 2008 when Airbnb started, and they were focused on the hosts that were renting out the extra bedroom in their house, or renting out their house when they go on 2 weeks of vacation, or, you know, whatever it is, that person who is really just focused on hosting some extra space, making some extra money, right? They're not focused on a business. They're not focused on having hundreds of units. They're just focused on renting out the extra space that they have and making some extra cash, right? Amazing. That's great. That's what got this whole hosting industry up and going, right? Some challenges that run in with that stage is that these individuals don't really have any real systems in place. The business relies 100% on them. They're most of the time doing the cleaning themselves, doing customer service. And, you know, again, it's not really a business, but it's there to subsidize some cash flow, make some extra money. But most importantly is host. They love hosting, right? Like that's the whole point of it, is they love the hospitality side. You know, where I live here in Encinitas, there's a ton of properties around here. And right across the street from me is this tiny little blue house. And these two like older hippie couples live there, and they've been living there for like 30 years. And it's a tiny little shack. And they have an extra bedroom, and they also built a really awesome tent in the backyard of their house. And they have constantly, they have guests from all around the country staying at their property. And, you know, I've become good friends with them. I've met their guests, all that stuff. And they're excited about the cash that's coming in, but most importantly is they're excited about connecting with travelers from around the world, right? So to me, that's the traditional host, right? That's all they're ever going to do. They're not focused on building a business. They turn over all the units. They communicate with the guests. They do everything, right? Yeah. That's stage one. I think that makes a lot of sense for everybody, right? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, for sure. Like the way I think about it too is, you remember when Airbnb started, there was the concept of sharing economy was just starting. And the whole idea was like, hey, we have all these resources, but we're not always using them, right? So with the internet, we now have the possibility to, you know, to have other people use our resources when we are not using them, right? And at the same time, we had like car sharing platforms, and there was all these type of platforms appearing where people could you know, rent out resources, you know, or assets. So that's kind of how I see it as well, like in the bigger picture of like, hey, let's use the internet to use our resources more efficiently.
100%. And you know, that makes sense for everybody. When they think traditional host, they know exactly what that is, right?
Yeah.
Then what happens is and this is what we notice, is like you could either start at the second stage, or you kind of graduate to the second stage, which we call the side hustle host. Okay, so we go from the traditional host to the side hustle host in stage number 2. The side hustle host that's kind of where I started in the space, right? I intentionally got into renting a property and then re-renting it out on Airbnb specifically to earn money, right? I wanted to build a business around Airbnbs, right? This back 2000, whenever it was, 6-7 years ago. So the side hustle host is someone who has multiple units, you know, more than one unit. They are focused on taking these properties, putting it on Airbnb and other platforms. And these are the individuals that are just now getting into the industry. They're focused on running these businesses, making some cash. They're focused on actually running it as a business, right? They want to grow more. They want more units. But some challenges that they're running into is that they still don't really have a lot of systems in place. The business still relies on them. And also their focus is kind of elsewhere, right? They have other businesses, or they have another 9-to-5. And it's just like, hey, if I get another unit this month, that's great, but I'm going to maintain what I have here, right? So I'm in this position, we're running this. There's no real vision of a business yet. That hasn't come into place yet. It's more of like, hey, here's an opportunity to make some money. It's really fun. It's awesome. It's exciting. It's sexy, all this stuff. Watch some YouTube videos, listen to some podcasts. Now I got some units up and going. But honestly, my focus is over here doing this other thing as well, right? Yeah. That's where we kind of find it. And honestly, like if you look at it, you and I are side hustle hosts in the moment with our current business, right? Yeah. With Free Wild. Right. Yeah. So this is a perfect example. We are the example of stage 2, right? We launched a brand new short-term rental business, bought one property. We are in the process of raising more money to build out 15 to 25 additional listings on this property. all of that. But our focus, our main objective day to day is overnight success. Our educational company, Legends X, Legends Mastermind, the podcast, our team, all of that. Right. Very soon, excuse me, very soon, we're going to move up the stages, right? Very, very quickly.
Okay.
But right now we're maintaining what we have, and we're focused on learning the business, learning the industry, learning our avatar, the whole thing. So then we can start expanding. Right. But we haven't yet put 100% focus into growing Free Wild. Right. So that's really where we look at Side Hustle Host. When certain people hear Side Hustle Host, they think that that's a negative, but it's, to me, it's just like, hey, that's the next stage of like really trying to figure out if we want to build a real business around this industry or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think that's really good that you mentioned that we're going to sell a Side Hustle Host, because I noticed that too. A lot of people that I talk to, they don't really want to be the Side Hustle hosts because it's, it doesn't sound cool. But I think you're right. And also I noticed that a lot of people start as a Side Hustle host, as you mentioned. When I started with Airbnb in 2012, I didn't know anybody who started as a Side Hustle host. Back then, everybody started as a traditional host, right? But now, like more and more people know Airbnb. So, now there's a lot of people that are just attracted by the opportunity, right? Without really, sometimes also being passionate about hospitality, but there's also people that they start as a Side Hustle host where they're not really that passionate about the business. They just look at the dollars, right?
100%.
So yeah, that's a good way of putting it. We're Side Hustle hosts, but you know what?
Yeah.
I think let's skip phrase 3 in our case.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we will, because this is why so yeah, just to wrap up the Side Hustle Host side, the reason why we named it Side Hustle Host was simply because at this stage, one is short-term rentals right now is attracting in a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Which is amazing, because to me, I've started many businesses in my life, and to me, starting a short-term rental business is one of the simplest ways to get it off the ground in such a short amount of time and getting cash flow within a couple of weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of crazy, and it's super simple to scale it. Not easy, but simple to scale this, right? So at that Side Hustle Host stage, we see a lot of people that are bringing on units, but they're not clear on if they actually want to scale a real hospitality brand or business in this space. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're running 2, 3, 4, 5 listings, but you're also building another business, or you have a 9-to-5 or whatever it is, or this is just giving you the cash flow that you need to travel the world and focus on lifestyle, hey, that's amazing. Align with being a Side Hustle host. That's incredible, right? But then we noticed that after this stage, there's people who look at, okay, I have a couple of listings. I know this industry. I love it. I want to start growing a business. This is what I'm going to do full time, or my plan is to do this full time. And then before we know it, we kind of get we kind of get graduated into the third stage without even knowing it. And this is why we name this the Hectic Host stage, right? Stage 3, the Hectic Host. The Hectic Host is someone who has now grown to multiple listings, whatever that is. That differs. The number of listings doesn't really matter. It's really kind of the focus and the intention behind your business. But you've grown into multiple listings. We've seen Hectic Hosts that have 3 listings. We've seen Hectic Hosts that have 40 listings, right? But you've grown into multiple listings. Your short-term rental business is your main business, your main focus, or your plans are to move into that business full-time. You want to scale it. You want to grow a company. You want to have listings, more cash, all of that stuff, right? But the biggest problem is that you finally got to this point in your business where running it as a Side Hustle host or a traditional host, where you haven't instilled real SOPs or systems in your business, or hired the right people, or really took the time to really understand what it is that you're actually building, right? Where you're going, what we call your North Star, where you're going with this thing, has really met now the demand of the business, right? So your business still relies on you 100%. You might have some tech, you might have a PMS, property management software, a pricing tool, stuff like that. But really, at the end of the day, you're running the business based off of memory. You're very reactive in your business. You're making money, but it's now a 24/7 type of business, right? And this is the best way. Like I asked somebody the other day, and we might have mentioned this a couple of times, but I've been bringing it up quite a bit. And like, what would happen if we gave you 5 properties, 5 listings right now, right? The Hectic Host wants those 5 listings because they love it. They want to take on, they want more listings. They want all of that. But one more listing actually means more work for them, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way that they put it through their lenses. Is that more listings mean more work, more customer service, more cleaning, more scheduling. I just can't do it anymore, right? And it's just like hectic, right? Or it's like, okay, I'll take those properties on, but there's no real systems or support behind you to run those listings or onboard them. So you're just hectic through the entire process. So then what happens is like this is what I always see. It's like when someone's in the hectic host position, they get so crazy reactive in their business that before they know it, standards start slipping in their properties, right? Cleaning stops being 5 stars. Customer service stops being 5 stars. Now guests become problems, right? It's like cleaners now start becoming problems of ours, right? And it's like we start losing the love of this industry because we're so in the business, right? But this is what I was talking about. The hectic host spot is like most people we speak to identify with the hectic host, right? And what's beautiful about the hectic host position is like most companies in this space, most hosts in this space, if we just instill a couple of things in their company, they can dramatically change the amount of time and energy they're putting into their business and start working on it. And they're going to see, like you guys will see here shortly, what happens to stage 4 and 5. The names are completely different. Like stage 1 is traditional host. Stage 2 is side hustle host. Stage 3 is hectic host. And then stage 4 and 5 change because in my mind, you go from being a host to a business owner after stage 3. Right. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, man, like, touch on the hectic host a little bit because you see this quite a bit with the people that reach out to us via email and everything else. Like, what do you notice in the hectic host position?
Yeah, I'd say one of our Legends X students described it the best. He said it was like running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good description. But another student I was talking to, he mentioned to me, he was saying like, when you start out as a traditional host, or even if you're a side hustle host with just a couple of units, it's fun. It's mostly fun, right? Because it's a fun business to be in. And there's an occasional challenge, but if it's 80-90% fun and every now and then there's an annoying guest or there's, a little fire here and there, it's not such a big deal. But at some point, the balance starts shifting, where instead of like 80-90% of the time you're having fun and you're excited, now like the amount of fires, as you add more listings, the amount of fires increase, but also new type of fires evolve, right? Because if you have like 5 units or 10 units, then it's different. You get different challenges than when you have 1 or 2. So it's almost like it's almost like you're suddenly like you find yourself most of the day you're actually killing fires instead of like doing the fun stuff and working on improving your guest communication, or working on like finding new listings, or working on your brand or your guest avatar, or or connecting with your guests, right? Or figuring out like, hey, how can I change the experience to to fit the needs of my guests better, like the stuff that you really want to be doing. You don't have time for it anymore because there's always a fire somewhere, right? And it's just not really fun anymore. You still there?
Yeah, you froze. Is that my side?
Oh, I thought you froze.
Oh, I thought you froze.
But we're back. We
all
might have
right, we're
frozen,
back.
but we're back. The sun is shining. We melted
That's right.
fairly quickly.
That's right.
But yeah,
All right,
man.
let's do it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I see it. You know, it's like there's so many fires now that it's not really fun anymore. Plus, it's overwhelming, and it gets to the point where you can't really. It's not sustainable anymore. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna burn out, right? And we see that all the time. It's just a matter of time. It could be 2 months, could be 3 months, could be 6 months, but at some point, you know, you can't live like that. Like it's affecting your health and in your life, and you have to find you have to find a solution, because that's not what you signed up for when you
Right.
started as a side hustle host, a traditional host. If you would have known, you wouldn't have signed up for the hectic host.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, man, because like, I'm a book geek and I kind of read, as many books as I can around business and human psychology and leadership and all that stuff. And every single business book I've ever read, they always talk about that shift between companies, like startups, right? Like what's the success rate of a startup nowadays? It's like less than 4% of companies that are incorporated in startup actually stay in business within 5 years, something like that. Or maybe it's even less than that. But it's because of these stages, right? So like, it's the same thing for our industry. It's like, if you go from that side hustle host to the hectic host, we start recognizing that we now have to deal with multiple different layers here. We have now guest communication, we have bookkeeping and finance, and we have inventory, and we have staffing and contractors, and like it becomes a real business at this stage, right? And I think we have a couple of options. It's like at this stage, if anyone who's listening to this that identifies with the hectico spot, it's really just making a decision on where you want to bring your business. Like, where do you want to spend your time on in your business versus in the fires and the reactive tasks, right? Most people in this stage just wake up and they just deal with whatever's coming at them. There's no strategic plan on getting them out of those day-to-day tasks, those reactive tasks, right? So this is why we call the fourth stage something completely different. The first three stages are all about hosting, right? Being a host. Now, the fourth stage is actually, in my opinion, when you decide to step up and into a CEO role of your business, right? Does not mean, when I say this, most people think like, oh, I need, a ton of money and listings and all these big things. No, it's just a stage in your progression of your business, in your hosting business. It's a mindset that you're stepping into, which is completely different. So that's why we called stage 4 the rising star, right? So the rising star stage is really someone who has now grown multiple listings, but you really made that mindset that I'm going to start replacing my time with systems and people, the right people, right? So it's building a real business. It's getting your time out of your business and working on it versus in it, making strategic decisions on what you're building, who you're serving, why you're serving them, understanding where your time is going, your bottlenecks are going, and then solving those problems with the right systems and the right people to maintain those systems, right? So the business still relies on you a little bit, but you understand you have the mindset that you can get out of the day-to-day of your hosting business, of your hospitality business, with the right systems, the right people, and the right vision, right? So you're in your business full time, but you're spending a lot more time on the things that you actually want to do in your business versus waking up and just dealing with whatever reactive tasks are coming your way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that rising, and this is why I say the hectic host stage number 3 is so powerful, because it's literally just a mindset shift of understanding like, oh, I can build any business I want to build. Right. This is the way I look at it. And this is what I talk to our Legends X students about. It's like, you can literally build any business you want to build. If you want a lifestyle business and understand how to just run these remotely and travel the world, If you want a generational business where your grandkids can be affected by what you build today, you can do that. Or if you want to build something to sell for the ultimate payday, you can do that as well, right? But it's literally at the hectic host stage is making a mindset shift of, okay, I am now CEO of my business, right? I might be the only person on my team outside of my cleaners, but I'm the CEO of my business. So now I'm going to start anything I do in my business more than once. I'm going to start creating systems around. I'm going to start documenting this. I'm going to start understanding what is it that I'm actually building at the end of the day. What does a year look like from now? 10 years look like from now? Who am I serving? Why am I serving them? Right. And this is exactly what we teach in Legends X, is like kind of make that shift of going from that hectic host, that rising star. And once you're in that position, then it's like, you know, anything becomes possible because you recognize the ingredients, the roadmap to building a real hospitality business in this space.
Yeah. 100%. And it's good that you mentioned that it's not really tied to amount of listings, because you could be a rising star with like 2 or 3 units, right? And that's something that I really noticed between the first class and the second class of Legends X. Like when we first did our first class, I would say like almost everybody identified as a hectic host in our class. But then the second round, we had a lot of side hustle hosts that came on board. And the reason that they came on board was they want to skip that phase, right? They want to skip the hectic host phase. So that was really interesting to see. But yeah, it's a mindset shift. Actually, one of our students I was talking to a few days ago said it's a paradigm shift, right? It's a different way of thinking. Instead of thinking like, all right, I got a X amount of tasks to do today, I just cross off those tasks, I take care of them, and then that's my job. That's what I need to do every day. Versus thinking like, okay, this needs to be done. How can I get myself to a position where I don't have to do it? Can I automate this? Can I build a system around it so that at least when I do it, I don't have to think about it. I could just follow a process. Or who can I hire to take over this task, right? It's just having that mindset and looking at everything that happens in your business through that lens.
Right. It's interesting because it's like when you're in the side hustle host, it's like you almost accidentally enter into the hectic host position, right? Of like, oh, before you know it, you got all this stuff that you're responsible for. And it's like, man, this is not fun anymore. The rising star side is like, oh, I can actually build any type of business I want and choose where my time goes. Doesn't mean that's going to happen automatically and right away, but like for our business, Free Wild, I say that we're in the side hustle host position right now because we're kind of maintaining what we're doing, but we're also taking our time to build a brand and build a vision and get the right partners on board, all of that. By the end of this year, we're going to be in a position where, you know, we're not going to be in that hectic host spot because we're building this business based off of a vision, exactly what we teach in Legends X, based off of a vision. And then before we actually go out and scale it, we're building and instilling the system. So then when we can scale it, and when we do scale it, that we're just going to pump it into our systems and we're going to hire the right people ahead of time, right? We're kind of taking our time, behind this. So by the end of the year, we're going to be in that rising star or the 5th stage of hosting, and then continuing to maintain that as we go, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly,
yeah. So the rising star, it's that's a fun stage because you can maintain that and run a credible business that you love, or you can position yourself to truly create something impactful, really impactful.
That's right. And that's when you move to the 5th stage, which is the legend stage.
That's right. And the short-term rental legend stage 5.
Yeah, and that's how you and I started working together back in 2019 when we started the STR Legends Mastermind, and that was also that brought a lot of inspiration to us as well, right? Connecting with all these operators that were running 40, 50, 60, 100, 200, 500 units.
Yep.
And they were able to come to Puerto Rico and spend 4 days with us without having to constantly look at their phone and dealing with challenges. So yeah, that's the stage, I guess, that a lot of people want to get to, but not necessarily everybody, because, I was talking to somebody today, and, and that person told me, hey, I want 50 listings. And I was like, why do you want 50 listings? And he was like, oh, I don't know. I just thought that would be a good number, and then I asked, like, well, how much money do you want to make? Right. And it turned out that, like, with 10 units, that person could make the amount of money that he wanted. So you don't have to become a legend with 1,500 listings if that's not your goal.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm happy you brought that up, man, because everyone, that I shouldn't say everyone, but I see a lot is that people get caught up in these numbers of listings. And one thing that we learned through COVID, when COVID first hit, it doesn't matter how many listings that you have. It's about how you built your business and how you're running your business that actually matters. And if you're profitable at the end of the day, right? So it's like, you have to align it with a vision. You have to understand what is it that you're actually trying to achieve, and then work backwards from there. If it's a money thing, and I get this a lot, it's like when I'm on these strategy calls for Legends X, potential clients of ours, I look at it, I'm like, well, at the end of the day, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Well, I just want to leave my business, my 9 to 5. And if I have this amount of money, then I can, spend more time with my family. Well, how much does a property actually generate you? And like, we work backwards from there. It's like, oh, you actually need half of what your brain is telling you that you think you need, right? So yeah, stage 5 is not for everybody, but this is, we do recognize that there's a lot of people in our industry that want to get to that 5th stage, the STR legend. And yeah, that's where we started this, right? Is the short-term rental legend mastermind, because we wanted to be surrounded by people that are building world-class hospitality brands, that are doing something really interesting in this space. So what we consider a legend in the short-term rental space is someone who is running, who's in a full CEO position, running a real hospitality brand. So that means they have brand identity. They understand who they're serving, what markets they're in, what assets they want to focus on. They have their team, they have systems, they're profitable, and they're scalable, right? All of that. So it's like, it's an actual company, hosting company, that's leveraging Airbnb and booking.com and direct bookings, and they understand how to acquire their customer, right? We do have a threshold there, right? Because we recognize that at the legends, it's like, okay, these are companies that are making at a bare minimum $1 million a year in their business, right? Because at that level, it's like, now if you're operating at a 50%, profit margin, that's mid 6 figures profit in your business. This, that's a very successful company that gives you options to hire people, to make different types of decisions, gives you different access to, business options, right? But what we find is that most legends that we speak to and that we invite into our mastermind, our high level mastermind, they're running anywhere between 50 to 500 listings if they're a manager or rental arbitrage, or they're buying boutique hotels and converting them to modern short-term rental experiences, right? So it's like people that are actually running real hospitality brands that are making some real traction in this industry. That's who we call legends in this space. And that's when we, work with them in our mastermind to understand, like, how do we actually level up and scale their business to the next level? And then, that's a small sliver of the industry. So we see a lot of people, like, they want to get out of that hectic host position and move to that rising star, that 4th stage. And that's completely fine. And that's amazing. You can build some incredible businesses there and lifestyle. But then we find that, that smaller percentage as well, that's like, hey, I want to build a legacy company here. I want to build something I can sell. I want to build something that impacts, my community, my family, all of that. And that's who we call STR Legends, the 5th and final stage of hosting.
Yes, that's right. And that's it. The 5 stages of hosting. That was it.
That was it. All right.
That was it. Maybe at some point we'll come up with a 6th stage.
No, I mean, past that is just like, I really do think like that 5th stage is like someone who's truly trying to scale a real hospitality brand. And I think that fifth stage is anything above that. It all falls in within that bucket. Right. So this is why I want you guys, like, who's listening to this, it's like, these are just stages that we're focusing on. And we find a lot of people that feel like they're in between the hectic host and the rising star, right? Or the rising star and the legend, right? They feel like they're in between these stages, and you completely can be, and there's nothing wrong with any of these stages. Just get super clear on where you want to go, and then recognize where you're at so you can make the strategic decisions to move up the stages. That's why this is so powerful. And this is why we're finding so many people that are connecting with this. So yeah. And then for the listeners on this, reach out to us. Let us know what stage you're in, and where you want to go with your business. If you're a hectic host, you want to become a legend, let us know that, and we'll support you on that, and just reach out, however you want to get in touch with us. We really want to hear, what kind of hosts are following us through this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can email us at team@overnightsuccess.io. But also don't forget, especially if you're a side hustle host, or you feel like you're in the hectic host, or in one of those two phases, or in the middle, our training on Thursday is specifically designed for people that are in those stages, right? So obviously everybody's welcome to the training. If you're whatever host you are, doesn't matter, you're welcome to join. But the training on Thursday, More Listings, Higher Profits, is specifically designed for side hustle hosts and hectic hosts. So if you relate to those stages, then make sure to go to strlegends.com/register, because you're gonna really enjoy that training if you're in those stages.
That's right. We're going to have fun. Yeah. And then just wrap that up for Thursday. I want to go into a real high level training, which is going to be amazing. And then after that training, I'm actually going to open it up, and we're going to do a seven-figure host panel as well, which is going to be really powerful. So we're going to bring in a couple of these legends that we're talking about, and really kind of analyze their business and the decisions that they had to make to move up those 5 stages of hosting to be in that legend stage. So yeah, guys, regardless of who you are, whatever stage you're at, just show up for the training. It's going to be powerful. So that's strlegends.com/register.
Boom.
Boom.
It's simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, buddy. That's it.
All right, bro. Let's wrap this up. This was fun. We'll be back next week, of course, on Thursday, we'll have the training. And on Friday, we'll be back with another podcast. So thank you all for listening. Leave us a review, subscribe. We're also on Spotify, by the way, Eric's favorite platform for podcasts.
That's
since
right.
Joe Rogan moved there for I think $1 million.
That's right.
But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Thursday, guys, and on Friday as well. Bye-bye.
Peace out.